full screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Thank you very much.
For your audience, we're ready for.
Thank you. So the topic we have for today is transformational leadership, an imperative for quality education in pre-tertiary schools in Ghana. Now, this is the outline. There will be an introduction. We'll look at the concept of quality education, how it promotes quality education. We'll then look at the concept of transformational leadership, its importance, some experiences in Ghanaian schools, then we'll have recommendations, and finally, our conclusion. Sustainable development goals. And quality education is critical for ensuring that Ghana is able to attain the sustainable development goals. Particularly looking at the Sustainable Development Goal 4, which states that we have to ensure inclusive, equitable, quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Now, what we say now is that effective school leadership and effective use of resources in school will help to improve quality education. Now, let's look at the quality education from the different schools of thought. There are different schools of thought as to what quality education entails. Going back to the Dakar Framework for Action that was came up with in the World Education Forum in Dakar, where a number of governments, about 164 governments, came up with this framework as to what we should do as nations. And within the framework, they had a perspective as what quality education should be or should entail. They indicated that we have to have learners who are healthy and who are motivated to study. The processes within the schools should be such that we are using active pedagogies and we have competent teachers that are promoting child-centered learning. They also talked about the aspect of content, and they mentioned that for us to have quality education, the content should have relevant curricula. And then we look at the system, the educational system as a whole should entail good governance and equitable resource allocation. And that is what the Dakar Framework says quality education is all about. Now let's go to the UNESCO perspective. With the UNESCO perspective, you see that they are looking at the scope and the depth of education, whereby they talk about quality being determined by how much and how well a child learns. And also they are looking at it from the perspective of the benefits that the individual and the society will get from the education. So they look at the extent to which education translates into a range of personal, social, developmental benefits. So that is UNESCO 2004, how they look at quality education. Now, if we look at researchers named Edu Echim and Osei Poku 2012, when they were talking about quality education, they were looking at it from the point of emphasizing the different elements that make up quality education. First of all, quality education, they say, has to be holistic. Holistic in the sense that the individual that is educated has to be developed intellectually, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and intuitively, so that they can positively contribute towards national development. They also indicated that when we are looking at quality education, we are looking at the aspect of teachers, where we have trained teachers and teachers who are motivated to teach. That brings us to the teaching strategies that the teachers use. They have to be child-centered and promote activity-based learning. They also mentioned the fact that assessment is key. In doing assessment, this assessment should be such that the different skills, such as the soft skills, are assessed, and not only rote learning is assessed. Cognitive learning is assessed. They also indicated that there should be good leadership. When they are talking about leadership, they are talking about a well-managed school. They are talking about ensuring effective use of time, the right attitude towards learning, and effective supervision in the schools. Then finally, they brought up the aspect of technology. Today, we cannot do away with technology. So they talked about the effective use of information and communication technology as a tool for learning. So Edu Ejim and Osei Poku 2012, this is how they looked at quality education. Now, if you look at it from another school of thought, that is Slade 2021, he looks at quality education as having three main pillars that support it, that are essential. He talked about ensuring that there are quality teachers, and not only quality teachers, people have to have access to the teachers. He also mentioned the need to provide quality learning tools and professional development. So as learning goes on, teachers have to develop themselves. So there has to be professional development. And then the third pillar they mentioned was the learning environment. And to be able to establish a good learning environment or a safe learning environment, it's important that there is good leadership that will build trust so that people feel safe to take risks, safe to ask questions, safe to find things out, so that you have a good learning environment or a learning community. Now, in looking at those different schools of thought of quality education, we come and look at what we have in Ghana. You see that Ghana sees quality education as very important. And as a result, a lot of initiatives have taken place or been put in place so that we promote quality education. And here are a few of them. If we look at what we have here, we can see the FQ, where we are looking at free, compulsory, universal basic education. That began in 1995, where we wanted to ensure that all children of school-going age will have access to basic education by the year 2005. Then there was another initiative, NALAP. NALAP was based on research findings, which indicated that students learn better when they learn in their local language. So this was an instructional approach that was put in place so that students can use their mother tongue to learn. So teachers went through training to be able to use these strategies. Then we have the free senior high school education policy that is going on now. Now, with this policy, they were looking at more of ensuring equal opportunities to quality education, not only at the basic level, but they are looking at it at a higher level, the senior high school level, so that students are able to develop themselves and be able to have careers and develop the nation. Then we have Gallup, which is the Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcomes project. Now, with this one, they were looking at ensuring that there is equity and accountability in our educational sector. So they looked at low-performing basic schools and looked at how they can strengthen these schools so that they are able to obtain quality education. Then there's the initiative of Leadership for Learning. With this initiative, this is where there's a focus on leadership. This initiative began with IEPA based on a research by GKT Odro, who found out that school heads were merely custodians of their properties and they were not looking at leading learning. And so this came up as a result of that and was implemented in 2009. It had a bit of ups and downs, but it's still in the system whereby leaders are being trained to be able to lead learning. So as you see, with all these initiatives, the ultimate goal is to obtain equal quality education for every child of school-going age in Ghana. Now, if we look at what is driving our education today, you see that the Ministry of Education in Ghana is committed to ensure quality education. Why do we say it's committed? Because we are being driven by our educational strategic plan. Now, with this plan, the main goals are to ensure access, to ensure that education is fit for purpose, to ensure that the curricula is skill-oriented so that there's national development as students graduate, and to ensure that there's international standards so that our curricula is assessed adequately. Now, you see that this strategic plan is a roadmap for education in Ghana to help us achieve our strategic educational goal 4. And there are 3 main policy objectives that drive each subsector. The subsectors, as you know, the basic, secondary, technical, vocational, tertiary, and adult learning. So again, you see the policy objectives are looking at improving equitable access and participation. It's looking at improving quality teaching and learning and STEM at all levels. And it is looking at sustainable and effective management. So how can we tell that we have quality education if we want to assess what we have? There are different indicators. To when there's quality education, what should we see in our schools? We should see strong leadership, which drives a vision. We should see curriculum that is relevant. We should see teaching and learning that is of high quality. We should see clear standards and assessment. Resources should be adequate and they should be equitable in terms of allocation. There should be participation from our stakeholders, the community, families, and our values, that is our cultural values, should be emphasized and taught. And most importantly, there should be a focus on learning. And in looking at all these issues, you will see that they all relate to the Educational Act of 2008, which is the backbone to our educational system. And it indicates that we have to have well-balanced individuals who have the needed knowledge, skills, values, aptitudes, and attitudes to be able to become functional and productive citizens. So that is what Ghana is looking at. And it means that Ghana, we have set ourselves high standards. So let's look at what are some of the figures with what we have in what we measure in terms of quality education. The frequently used measures are related to completion rate, transition rate, the percentage of qualified teachers, the pupil-teacher ratio, pupil-trained teacher ratio, and the pass rates. Now, looking at this, table, you will see that the figures are for 2018 and 2019. You see that with primary, JHS and SHS, they have fairly high completion rates. Students are able to complete. We have transition rates they are able to go through. We have high percentages of trained teachers. Therefore, we have the skills that are needed to provide the teaching methodologies to help students learn. The pupil-teacher ratio is fairly good, looking at the figures there, and the pass rate seems fairly good. But if we go into details, when we are looking at quality, there is a pass rate, but what is the type of the pass rate? What kind of passes are there? So when you look at it critically, you see that the figures come down when we are looking at the average pass rate, where we are looking at where students have the pass rate for the 3 core and the 3 elective, it goes down to about 20%. And also comparing ourselves to other countries, I took this up from UNICEF's report on learning skills, and they rated the countries as developed, less developed, least developed, and so on. Ghana was indicated as a less developed country. Lesotho was least developed, and Zimbabwe was less developed. So I randomly picked up 2 countries that are almost similar to Ghana in terms of development and looked at the figures. As you know, literacy and numeracy is a measure of quality. So looking at the reading rates for Ghana compared to similar countries like Lesotho and Zimbabwe, you see that it is quite low for Ghana in terms of the reading literacy rate and the numeracy rate for both Lesotho and Zimbabwe. The same goes for the reading at the grade 2 and 3 classes. It is numeracy where we have a higher rate than the other countries. So you see, we have some way to go in terms of ensuring that there's quality education in our schools. So what is the ministry's key concern? This was a statement that the minister made when he was talking about the Ghanaian dream, quality and accessible education, that this is what he wants to see or hopes to see Ghanaian students who are career ready once they complete schools. He wants to see them who are able to adapt the 4 C's of 21st century skills. And this is the type of quality that he wants to see in our schools. For this to happen, it's important that we have good assessment, we have good teaching methodologies, we have good teachers, but all these have to be supported by leadership to enable them to work. Therefore, what are we saying is a key to quality education? We are saying is transformational leadership. Transformational leadership is all about change, making the difference. Before we look at transformational leadership in itself, let's look at the concept of leadership. Leadership is all about influence, being able to influence others. And we have 3 definitions here that look at leadership. We look at the ability to have a vision, and you are able to motivate others and move them to achieve a goal. We are looking at leadership whereby the leader knows himself or herself, has that vision, and that vision needs to be communicated well so others buy into it and understand it. And what is key is to build the trust that people will know that you support them when the change is going to take place. And then taking active action to realize the leadership potentials. And then the final definition there by Dwight, you see that he simply says is the act of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it. And that is important. The person should be motivated enough to want to do it, to want to achieve that goal. Now, in looking at the different definitions of transformational leadership, this one by Nordhaus 2016 is what I'm basing my talk on. And he talks about transformational leadership as that which enables others to increase their knowledge about the goal that they are supposed to achieve. They are able to move others to move beyond their personal desires in favor of the organization, to ensure that they are looking at more at the group goal than the individual goal, and to move people to higher order needs so that they are able to self-actualize, so that they are able to be satisfied internally to get their social and self-actualization needs. So what is the theory that underpins this kind of leadership? Now, Bass' transformational leadership theory of 1985 is what underpins transformational leadership. And he talks about it having 4 distinct elements. And in looking at these elements, you see that once we see this kind of elements being displayed, then we have transformational leadership. The first one we have here is intellectual stimulation. Now, with intellectual stimulation, we have the individual who looks at his situation differently, looks at the situation and questions the circumstances, asks questions that make followers think about the situation and think about what they can do differently. They question the status quo. They ask questions like, what is it? What if something is done different? Why is it done in this way? How can we do it differently? Where can we go? When can we do it? And remember, in order to do all of this, it's important that you have data that will help you assess the situation. So the transformational leader is somebody who will always depend on data to make informed decisions, and then is able to challenge others to go ahead and achieve the goal of the institution. Now, the second, and also promote innovations. Now, the second element that Bass talked about in transformational leadership is individualized consideration. Now, with this one, you'll see that the leader sees that he gives support to the individual persons in the organization, and in this place we are talking about in the school. That means no one is left behind. We take note of the individual differences, and so the issue of equity comes into play. The person is tactful in guiding others and shows genuine concern for others' needs. And when you are showing genuine concern, you are able to build trust between you, the leader, and your followers. And that makes it much easier to coach, to mentor, and to grow their abilities. And once this is done, you have considered the individual. And that is the second element that Bass is talking about. Now, the third element was looking at inspirational motivation. Now, with inspirational motivation, the individual leader has a strong vision, and the person is able to communicate that vision clearly to the understanding of others. And also, the vision comes out as a result of the person working with others to achieve the vision, so that the others will have a sense of belonging in the school. And then the final one is idealized influence. With this one, you don't just talk about what should happen, but you also carry it out. You are a role model as a leader, And so others look to you and are able to imitate what you do, and they are able to succeed in what they have to do. So this is a theory that underpins transformational leadership. Now, once these elements are found in the individual, you are more likely to move others to carry out the activities they are supposed to carry out to achieve the goal of getting quality education in the school. So what then does a transformational leader do? What would we expect of him or her? Is somebody who would like to be the initiator of change, initiate change and support others to also be innovative and initiate change. You also stimulate teachers to come out with innovative ideas. It's important that the needs of the individuals and the interests are identified and provided for. There's also the fact that high standards but achievable standards are set, and you all work towards getting it. And most importantly, there's collaboration and collegial work ethics. When you look at a transformational leader, that is the kind of thing you see in the school. So what is the importance of transformational leadership? Why do we say it is something that is imperative for our pre-tertiary education schools? First of all, it is a style that you see in most of our research, that it is the second biggest influence to student learning in schools, coming just behind classroom teaching. Because of the decisions the leader takes, it plays an important role in promoting education, quality education. And the leader, you will see, is the pivot around which all activities evolve in the school. It reminds me of a statement that we came up with in our workshop that we held last week, or was it last 2 weeks, where we said that leadership is cause, all others are effect. We also say that transformational leadership is an approach that will create individuals and a social system that support change. That's why we are advocating for transformational leadership. Now, we also say that transformational leadership looks at changing the culture of the school. Now, once you change the culture of the school to support quality education, cause people to develop their skills, then you are more able to promote quality education, improve performance in schools, and then in the end, the individuals and the groups in the schools are satisfied with what is happening in the school. So it impacts positively on the creativity of the workforce. Now, what kind of leadership support do we have when we are talking about transformational leadership? As we've mentioned earlier, there are high expectations. We have positive relations. People are able to ask questions, take the risk, and not be afraid of being brought down. There's the trust that is built. And with anything that is, any innovation that is brought up, people are appreciated. And more importantly, decisions are made based on data. That is very important when we look at transformational leadership. So how would we see it in our school? We'll see transformational leadership where there's a shared vision. Everybody sees that they are part of the vision in the school. Activities are planned, and the decision-making process is such that people are participating in that process. So there are collaborative structures in place to ensure that everybody takes part of it in it, and they feel that they belong to the school. Now, a study by Edwards and Abuadi 2015, they assessed school leadership challenges in Ghana, and they recommended that transformational leadership should be established in schools because it was a significant factor that will promote quality education. So when that happens, you see that it affects what happens in the school. So you will see within the schools, you have teachers who are motivated because they are part of the decision-making process. You see teachers who are creative because they are supported to bring up innovative ideas. You see open communication because with all the decision-making, everyone is involved in the decision-making, and that brings up high learning outcomes. Leadership is shared, there's shared accountability, and most importantly, there's a focus on learning. And all this brings up a healthy and safe environment. When this happens, you most definitely would have quality education. As we earlier mentioned with quality education, we have teachers who are motivated, we have using child-centered pedagogies and so on. Now let's look at, there are some examples of researches that have been done in relation to leadership in schools that will support the idea that transformational leadership is imperative. There's a research that was done 2010, Boudreau and Bosu, and it consisted of an action research where teachers were given the leeway to come up with innovative ideas of how to lead learning. They were also given capacity building to promote learning in the schools. Now, when this was done, one of the key findings was that the head teachers were able to make positive differences in the schools. So the main issue is that there has to be a creative environment, an environment where people are able to come up with their ideas in the school and to be able to take initiatives. Another research by Swafield and Macbeth, they were looking at how shared leadership can improve pedagogy in basic education. The key finding was that teachers did not have the capacity. And so there was a recommendation for capacity building in leadership. Then Amache and Ampamensah did a research on how school leaders are prepared for their positions or their roles as school leaders. And they found out that most school leaders were appointed based on their teaching record rather than their leadership potential. And they also recommended that training has to be done in leadership. Then there was Atakra, who also looked at leadership practices. And he also found out that although they talked about having a shared vision and all the aspects of transformational leadership or effective leadership, they rarely put it into practice. So it's important that administrators organize more training programs so that people are motivated to put these things in practice. So that is the situation that we have. So then what do we recommend as advocates for leadership? We have to identify what has to change. It's important that school leaders are able to inspire a shared vision. There has to be capacity building. And what we should remember that leadership should not be confined to the school head alone. The school teacher is a leader in the classroom. We have leaders from the SMC, we have leaders from the PTA, we have leaders from the district office and so on. All those people, we have leaders. So transformational leadership is not confined to the school head alone, but we are looking at shared leadership. Now, We also recommend that in saying all these things, we realized from one of the researchers that people were able to mention issues about or elements of transformational leadership, but they were not putting it into practice. So it's important that we are able to encourage others to put this into practice. It's important that we build learning communities that support each other and aim high. Teachers should be empowered to transform school functions. They should have the leeway to be able to experiment, to bring up innovations that will support learning in the schools. So that therefore they have to be active in the decisions that are taken about student learning. And most importantly, they need to model best practices. So to conclude, I'll say that transformational leadership is more likely, because of the elements of transformational leadership, is more likely to create an environment that will help promote and sustain quality delivery in Ghanaian tertiary education, pre-tertiary schools, sorry. We have the leaders, they have the potential, and so what they need is the push to be able to get this done. Before I end, I would like us to listen to the General Powell when he talked about effective leadership. You see that the issues he mentions are related to transformational leadership. So let's listen, just 2 minutes, we'll listen to this. I hope you'll be able to hear what is being said.
My name is Amy Wilkinson. I'm a White House Fellow. My question is how you would define the key characteristics of effective leadership that allow you to go and be an advocate for good?
Trust. The longer I have been in public service, the more people have asked about leadership over the years. Leadership ultimately comes down to creating conditions of trust within an organization. Good leaders are people who are trusted by followers. Leaders take organizations past the level that the science of management says is possible. One of my sergeants back in the infantry school at Fort Benning almost 50 years ago, which is where I learned everything I ever got to learn about leadership, was at the infantry school. And he said to me one day, he said, "Lieutenant, you'll know you're a good leader when people follow you, if only out of curiosity." I've never had a better definition, because what he was saying, and I've seen it experienced in my life since time. What he was saying is to trust you. And you have built up that trust. How did you do it? Clear mission and statement, selfless service. People look to you and they trust you because you're serving selflessly as the leader, not self-serving, selflessly. And that you prepare the followers, you train them, you give them what they need to get the job done. Don't give them a job if you're not going to give them the resources, and that you're prepared to take the risks with them. And so they would teach us at the infantry school, no matter how cold it is, Lieutenant, you must never look cold. No matter hungry you all are, Lieutenant, you must never appear hungry. No matter how terrified you are, Lieutenant, you must never look terrified. Because if you are scared, terrified, hungry, and cold, they will be scared, terrified, hungry, and cold. I've gotten away with that many, many times in the course of my career by being scared to death, cold, and wanting to go to sleep. But no, let's go. Let's keep going. Let's go around this corner, if only out of curiosity. And they'll follow you into the darkest night, down the deepest valley, up the highest hill, if they trust you. So the essence of leadership is about doing all that the science of management says you can with resources, but then taking it that extra step and giving it that spark
is Amy Wilkinson. I'm a White.
I hope you heard it. Well, based on what the general said, we have to go out there and build a trust and ensure that we encourage others to follow us. Let me end with these two quotations. The first one is by Sam Walton, where he says, outstanding leaders go out of their way to boost the self-esteem of their personnel. If people believe in themselves, it's amazing what they can accomplish. And secondly, Seth Godwin says, transformational leaders do not start by denying the world around them. Instead, they describe the future they would like to create. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Bosu. Thank you very much, Prof, for that wonderful presentation. Two key things I took away from this presentation, and I would say quotable quotes. Transformational leadership is all about change, making a difference. Transformational leadership is all about change, making a difference. And also, leadership is cause, all other things are effect. Great. And I think one of the attributes of a great leadership is time management. So Prof was able to do her presentation in less than an hour, which is great, and we appreciate you. That gives us a lot of room for comments, discussions, and questions. I've just been hinted that a few of the professors in IEPA are ready to make comments on this topic. But before I invite them in, there was one question which was put forward for Prof, and I would like to read that and to start that discussion. The question is, how should transformational leaders in education promote critical thinking and intellectual stimulation in an environment where critical thinkers are readily tagged with political labels and are victimized? I repeat the question. How should transformational leaders in education promote critical thinking and intellectual stimulation in an environment where critical thinkers are readily tagged with political labels and are victimized? Prof, over to you.
Yes, the political aspect is the tough one. You see, when we are looking at transformational leadership here, we are looking at transformational leadership in the school and making change. Now, once we are able to make that change and see the outcomes, the positive outcomes, the bad names that are being given would not hold, because you have been able to achieve your goal. And as a transformational leader, you are there to support your teachers, to support your students. So it's important that you appreciate any change that is made. Now, once that is appreciated and you don't encourage bullying and name calling, then I suppose you are able to support your teachers to bring about innovative things and to have a transformation in your schools. I don't know if I've answered your question.
I'm sure Professor Joy is listening. He asked the question. So, yeah. Well, we have some hands raised up for questions. So I would unmute them one after the other so they ask the question, so it's interactive. And I'd like to call on Madam Christina Nana Ama. That's all I see of your name. So kindly ask your question.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you so much, Prof. This has been very exciting. Before you started, I missed about 10 minutes and I was dying to listen into you. I am very happy to know that most of my lecturers, I studied at IEPA, and I'm so excited to do this. I am now the deputy head of University of Ghana Basic School. And it is very exciting to be doing this because I have learned a lot today, and I know that is going to really impact on my leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you, Madam Christina. That was a comment from her. I also have Professor Yao Ankoma's hand raised for a question, so we'll take that. And we've also received some questions in the chat. So after Prof. Ankoma, I would read those questions so you answer. So Prof, you have the floor. Prof. Ankoma. No, there's noise in your, so probably have to mute you and get back to you. I have another hand raised. I don't know who it is, but it's a Techno Common X Pro. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with your name. Can you ask your question briefly to Prof. Bosu? Hello. Well, Prof, whilst we're waiting for them to sort out their microphones, I have one question from Kasim Dango, who says that how should you win the trust of your followers as a very young head teacher of a basic school who is leading teachers of varied ages and experiences? The question again, how should you win the trust of your followers as a very young head teacher of a basic school who is leading teachers of varied ages and experiences? Prof. I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. You are thinking of building trust. Now, one way as a young head teacher of building trust with the other teachers who may be more experienced, more older than you, one way is by showing respect for them, letting them know that you believe in them and the fact that you can work with them. And when you are taking decisions, you can go to them and ask for their opinion. Tell them that you know they have the experience and what do they think about this, you are going to do so and so. Once they see that you believe in them and you trust in them, you respect them, that trust will be built. So another one apart from respect is transparency. People should know what you are doing and why you are doing it. You should be able to communicate it to them, what the vision is, what you expect to do, and even build the vision up with them. In that way, they have the sense of belonging, and then you are able to build trust. And then another way is show appreciation. When they are able to do something for the school, no matter how small, you show the appreciation. And then show concern. You may decide to visit, say happy birthday do something that shows that you have the concern for their welfare. And when you do these things, you are able to build a trust with these other teachers who may be more experienced or older than you. So these are the few things I can say you can do.
Thank you very much, Prof. There's another question, and it goes as, how do you deal with tension among the various stakeholders of education? How do you deal with tension among the various stakeholders of education? And that was put forward by David.
First of all, you have to understand the situation. You have to know why there is tension. You have to find out what is the underlying thing that is bringing up the tension. Now, once you find out what is bringing up the tension, you should have to, you look for persons who can support you, who are respected by both parties, wherever the tension is, to be able to come in and help you sort out the tension that is there. We have to know that we have to let others understand that we are working together for our common good. That may be very difficult and will not want to listen. But as you continue to communicate with them, continue to appreciate them, I'm sure they will relax and but it's important that you have to understand the underlying factors that have caused the tension and try to work on it from there.
Okay, thank you, Prof. There's also another question, and it goes as, is it appropriate for a transformational leader to work with only limited number of followers he or she is comfortable working with? Is it appropriate for a transformational leader to work with only limited number of followers he or she is comfortable working with?
I'll say that no, it is not appropriate to only work with those you are comfortable with. Remember, when we talked about transformational leadership, you have the individualized consideration. It is important that you extend your assistance to support your various supporters. You have to know their various needs and work with them when their skills are needed. You don't focus on particular persons because you are going to create tension, as somebody asked earlier. You are going to bring about the formation of different cliques, and then there will be competition amongst them. What is important as a transformational leader is that you have to let everyone see that everybody is important, no matter how small, how big the person is, or how skilled or not skilled the person is. You have to know that everyone is important. Everyone has a part to play. And when the time comes for a person to play his part, let the person who has the skills and the knowledge do so. So it is not, I'll say it is not good to work with only those you are comfortable with.
Great. Another question. As a teacher poised with the tenets of transformational leadership, how do you deal with a head teacher who has 15 plus years of experience in a particular school and finds your initiative for change threatening? I'll take the question again. As a teacher poised with the tenets of transformational leadership, how do you deal with a head teacher who has 15 plus years of experience in a particular school and finds your initiative for change threatening? This was posed by one participant named Nanajua. Prof.
Well, it's similar to the other questions that were asked. The important thing is being able for that head teacher to trust you, to trust that you are not going to expose him or her from his about his or her deficiencies. You are going to bring up things that will support him or her as a head teacher. So I think the key thing there is being able to be a critical friend with the school head, being able to communicate with that school head and work with the school head for the school head to see the kind of things you want to bring about. Before you bring them about, the change, you talk to the school head, let the school head see that you respect his or her authority, because you are a teacher in the school and you have to respect the authority of the school head. So once they see that you respect their authority, you trust them, you want their support, you communicate things with them, then I'm sure you'll be able to work it out. The key thing is communication, being very tactful in the way you handle those things. That is what is important.
Okay, great. Thank you, Prof. I've seen some hands raised for questions. Before I call them to make their contributions or questions, we received a comment that we should project the profile of IEPA. So that's why that is projected. So whoever made that request, we've projected the profile of IEPA. There's a short profile of IEPA. You can read more about IEPA when you visit the website. Great. So Mr. William Awoche Eskin, kindly unmute yourself and ask your questions. And after that, kindly lower your hand.
Okay. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Prof, for this presentation. I much appreciate the efforts that you've done. I'm also a student of IEPA, Education Administration. My question here is, when talking about transformational leadership, I'm a head teacher, making sure that whatever is placed in my school is progressing. Now, here's the case that as I am doing that, somebody somewhere is trying to make a way so that they take me off and that person comes into the scene. Now, as a leader, what should I do? Thank you.
First of all, why would the person want to take you off?
Because of what I am doing, like the progress I've brought to the school, my ways of doing things in the school.
Well, I would say that if you are working hard as a transformational leader and the other stakeholders really appreciate and see the outcomes of what you are doing, that person wouldn't be able to take you out, because they would kick against him taking you out because they know what you are doing. However, as I've always been saying, the key with all that we are doing is communication. Let others see what you are doing, the successes you are clocking. Let it be known. Let others appreciate it. And when you are able to develop others alongside with you, display the good things that your teachers are doing and others are doing. And then when others see the good work you are doing, it will be more difficult for someone to move you out behind the scene, because you would have had the support of all those other stakeholders. I don't know if you know the individual. If you know the individual, you have to work through letting the individual understand what you are doing, that this is not something you are doing alone for yourself, but it's to promote teaching and learning in the school, to bring about quality education, which that person will also benefit from. You see. So I think it all boils down to communication, good communication, being able to make others.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abotre. Mr. Sampson Yekple, kindly ask your question or your comment. Mr. Sampson Yekple. You have the floor to ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank
Great.
you, Prof, for your insightful presentation. I just want to add to the question she answered for the young school teacher who is dealing with a senior officer.
Okay.
One other way she can be, this head teacher can build the trust of the senior officer, consensus building in all that he does. If you're able to build consensus and the staff is aware of whatever action you are going to take, the action is no more yours, but for the staff. So this will also lead to what we call teamwork. So the leader is not seen alone somewhere, and the followers are also far away from him. And as you move, you realize that the experiences they have are now shared with you, and you tap into this experience to deliver. Then this leader should also be very tactful at the meetings, whether staff or PTA meetings, to be the last to talk, so that he will talk from all that. So this is leading to what I'm terming the consensus building. And by this, by the time he take a decision, the decision is a team one, and he's okay to go with it. But generally, the communication is a key factor. Nothing is hidden from any staff member, no matter how young you are. Once you are ready to do this teamwork and deal with the staff as a team, you are bound to succeed. And same thing will happen to the environment where there is a political divide. Communicate more with the staff members, be so open, and the trust will be built. You have to be very careful to show your openness and not supporting any of the divide, and you shall win. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We've had comments on some of the questions, and I would like to read them. We've had comments on the question about the young leader. How do you deal with your head teacher who is 15, who has 15 plus years experience? And Professor Joe said that the following also has also been helpful in trust building: be humble, communicate well, create a sense of belonging, and eschew verbal diarrhea. In essence, be very confidential in whatever you're doing. I also have a comment here from Dr. Gloria Nyame on the issue about how do you encourage critical thinking where you're politically aligned. And she says that, I think if a leader is committed to the vision and mission statement of the institution he or she works in, his or her activities are driven by them, nobody can accuse him or her as having political, etc. influences. Okay, thank you for your contributions. As we move on, just want to find out if there are any more questions or comments. Then we can bring this webinar series to a close.
Professor Ankama was not able to come up again.
Professor Ankama, are you ready to make your contributions now? Well, I don't think he's here.
All right.
Okay. There's a question here, which has just dropped into the chat. Thank you for your presentation, Prof. Please, my question is, with the current state of our education system in Ghana, if there should be a transformation, where should it start from? Is it with educational leaders and the training in the tertiary institutions, or the trainers or persons managing the education system? So the question is, if there should be transformation, where should it start from? Is it with the educational leaders and the training in the tertiary institutions, or the trainers or persons managing the education system? Prof, over to you.
Thank you. Well, I think it doesn't have to start from one particular point, because it's something that has to be seen transcending everywhere. So it has to be with those managing the educational system. It has to be with the school leader. It has to be in the classroom. It has to be with the SMC meetings. It has to be with the district office. When everybody is working towards that, when everybody is developing trust, when everybody is encouraging creativity, when everybody is supporting each other to bring personal growth, then we have a very good learning community, and that is where we see the quality education. So it doesn't begin at any one point. We all have to work for it.
Okay, thank you. I saw Dr. Michael Boachiadom, Director General of IEPA's hand raised. DJ, are you ready for your contribution? Yeah.
Yes, I am. I sit down in the chat platform, but I think I can still make a comment. So thank you very much, Prof. Bosu, for that wonderful delivery. I'm just wondering how we can encourage and support transformational leaders to develop many more transformational leaders. So how may transformational leaders develop many more transformational leaders? What would be the best approach for us to do this, Prof?
Well, as I was saying, that the transformational leader should not only be the school head. So the school head should understand that. And then we also have to look at the various insets that are done with any professional leadership activity. Issues about transformational leadership should be learned and should be encouraged. So we should encourage the transformational leadership in the content of in-service training programs. We should look at the different activities that are being done in the school to ensure that transformational leadership is promoted. It can be promoted with right down to the school pupils. So we look at our training, the training in the universities, the training in the colleges of education. We look at the insets, the professional development training that is done. We have to talk about transformational leadership. It should just be the discourse. Anything that we are talking about, any learning dialogue that is going on, we should look at what change can we make. We should look at that. And then we can develop many more transformational leaders.
Thank you very much, Prof.
A follow-up one.
Mm-hmm. And this is Prof.
A follow-up one, a quick one.
This is Professor Nujo, who is the
ma'am.
head of Research, Innovation, and Outreach at IEPA. Prof, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. We are talking about transformational leaders to find out for our educational system to move forward in the right direction. Do we all have to be transformational leaders for this to happen? Or some could be, and others could be other types of leaders, charismatic and so on and so forth. What is your view on this?
Well, looking at the situation now, I was looking at it from the point of view that there has to be change. So if there has to be change, we have to have transformational leadership. But transformational leadership is not the only way by which we can bring change. But it is one of the prominent one that can bring about change. So we are not saying that all leaders should be transformational leaders by all means. What we have to do is to look at the situation. There are some situations where there has been the change. There's no need to bring about any change whatsoever. So we need more other type of leader, maybe a servant type leader, depending on the situation. You have the kind of leadership that should be adapted. So that is my take on it. It is not written in stone that transformational leadership by all means should be what we all should do. But looking at the situation where we want to have change, transformational leadership is more favorable for us to bring about that change.
Thank you, Prof. And Mildred, one of the participants, has also made a comment saying that leadership development for transformational leaders should be intentional. So transformational leadership should be intentional. Thank you, Mildred. Well, I don't see any hands up, and we've addressed all the questions. I just want to inform everyone who have sent in a message asking for certificates. Manessa, just give me a few minutes. Asking for certificates, asking for the slides. We're going to send the slides to your emails that you use to register for this webinar. We have your email addresses and we send the slides to you. All those who indicated in the registration form that they want certificates, we're going to send you an email on the process on how you can get your certificate. So kindly be checking your email for our messages. If for any reason you didn't indicate you wanted a certificate, but after hearing Professor Bosu give a fantastic presentation, you can kindly contact us at IEPA.ocpr@ucc.edu.gh. I'll type this in the chat platform, but just to repeat that, IEPA.ocpr@ucc.edu.gh. So you can send us an email and we will respond to you. Now, Mr. Manasa Nico Ashe, kindly ask your question.
Thank you very much. Prof, I think it's a long time I've heard your voice, but I'm happy about this transformational leadership. But what I want to ask is the rate of change. If we are talking about change, how will you assess the rate of change? Because some leaders want drastic change. The change is so rapid. There's no any measure of. So I'll be happy for you to brief more about the rate of change, which the transformational leadership should be able to initiate. Thank you.
Thank you. You are talking about the rate of change.
Yeah.
I would say that it is. Remember, I say with transformational leadership, when you are taking decisions to bring about change, you have to assess the situation. And in assessing the situation, you make the change according to the data that you have. So it is a decision is informed by the data that you have. Now, looking at the data that you have, if it's important that the change is important and should be immediate, then you make the change fast. But from the data, if it's a change that is not something that is urgent, it's important, but it's not urgent, something that has to be done immediately, then the change has to be gradual. Because if there's the situation where people have to be made aware of of the issues. You have to have capacity building and so on for the change to come on. Then it will be gradual. So I would say there's no fixed rate of change. It depends on the situation. And you have to assess the situation by collecting data about what the situation is.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. And I believe this will be the last question. It's from Wina Sisu. And it says, should transformational leaders engage in party politics? Politics again. If yes, then how can he or she make others believe in his or her transformational agenda, assuming he or she is aligned to a particular political party? Prof, today we're on the political tangent.
I don't want to
Should
talk
transformational leaders engage in party
I don't want
politics?
to talk about politics. that one, I don't see it as some. It is something. It's an individual
choice, decision.
Choice, yes, or decision. You have decided that you want to be with that party. That's fair enough. You can be with that party. But once you are in the school, what is the goal of the school? What is the vision of the school? What do you have to do in the school? And you work towards that. Party politics doesn't come in, because at the end of the day, what we want, as the minister said, we want to have career able students who have gotten the skills. So what are you doing? How is party politics helping you to do that? No, we are looking at what will help you achieve your goal. How will you ensure that there's quality education? How will you ensure that the students have got all these cognitive skills, the soft skills, creativity, communication, all those kind of skills? That is what you are working towards. But as for party politics, it's your choice. That is out of the school. Well, that is my personal opinion. I don't think it should be in the school.
Thank you, Prof. And finally, I think Professor Jojo Drew has a comment to make. Prof.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I just wanted to add to Director General's question as to how transformational leaders can develop transformational leaders. I think that one of the things that is critical is do not be a signpost. Walk the talk. So if you are asking people to be critical, if you're asking people to be tolerant, then you should not be angry when your views are criticized. So you must walk the talk, don't be a signpost. That is all what I would say in addition to the other comments.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor Joe.
To add to that, I'll say that we have to be the change we want to see.
We have to be the change we have to see. Thank you very much, Professor Rosemary Bosu, for that insightful presentation. And thank you all participants who made time to join us. Your comments and questions are worthwhile, and we appreciate you. Kasim has sent in a comment saying that great learning here today. Can they organize one on the topic of leadership as soon as possible? We have taken note of that. But leadership comes in different forms. Today, we've looked at transformational leadership. We've looked at other forms of leadership as we go along. And I can promise you that there'll be more insightful topics as we roll more webinar series and topics in the coming months. So kindly watch the space, follow us on social media, check our website from time to time. And if you indicated to receive further information from IEPA, we'll be sending you information on our webinar series and other insightful workshops and courses that will be coming up as we roll them on. On that note, I say thank you to all of us, especially thank you, Professor Bosu, for making the time and also
thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, taking us through transformational leadership. Your slides, presentation, and everything were very beautiful, Thank you. So from IEPA and from all of us here from Cape Coast, Thank you for making time to join us. The next webinar series comes on in November, on the 25th of November, and kindly watch the space social media, WhatsApp, for the topic, the presenter. And I promise you, it's also going to be another insightful one. Let's have a lovely day and stay blessed. Bye-bye.
Bye, and thank you for moderating.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Yep.